Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalabha Girdvaradhari Gopi Janabalabha Girdvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janabalabha Girdvaradhari Jaya Gopi Janabalabha Girdvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Om Shivam Zurladhikar Astu Devamrita Sisima AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Shivam Zurladhikar Jai Astu Devamrita Sisima Bhakti Siddhanta Sajida Go Prabhupada Ki Go Premanandi We'll be chanting a verse from the Bhagavatam. I'll be reading it from Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we can say the invocation for Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. There's a verse on the screen. Technical difficulty? Okay. Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasham gatanam paradaivatena mayashratanam naradharakena sadham vijahu kutapunya punjaha. Itam in this way. Satam, of persons who prefer the impersonal feature of the Lord. Brahma, of the impersonal effulgence. Sukha, by the happiness. Anubhuja, who is realized. Dasyam, the mode of servitude. Gatanam, of those who have accepted. Paradaivatena, who is the supreme worshipful deity. Maya Ashritanam, for ordinary persons, under the clutches of the external energy. Naradadakena, with him who is like a boy of this material world. Sadham, in friendship. Vijahru, played. Krita Punya Punja, those who have accumulated volumes of pious activities. Translation. Neither those engaged in the self-realization of appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, nor those engaged in devotional service while accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, nor those under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord an ordinary person, can understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as cowherd boys. Purport. This is a statement made by Shukadeva Goswami, Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 12, Verse 11, who appreciated the good fortune of the cowherd boys who played with Krishna and ate with him on the banks of the Yamuna. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Is Krishna a myth? Is Krishna an ordinary human being? Is Krishna the impersonal Brahman? Is Krishna the supreme controller, the supreme authority? Is Krishna the supreme enjoyer, the supreme lover, and the supreme beloved? So many visions of Krishna are possible. Those in the grip of illusory energy consider Krishna as just a myth. Those also in the grip of illusory energy consider Krishna existed, but he was just a very powerful, ordinary person. Those overwhelmed by Mayavad philosophy, in which they want to be the supreme by merging into the supreme. In other words, if you can't beat them, let's join them. All together, we are the supreme, which means no one is the supreme. No sense of subordination, no sense of servitude, no sense of relationship. Yet people are attracted to that out of frustration with material existence. Frustration with their individuality, frustration with their relationships, frustrated with their entire existence. Let me just get rid of myself in a spiritual way. So, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Pakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samapati. I'm not manifest to the unintelligent. Unintelligent doesn't mean those without academic degrees. Unintelligent means they don't accept the conclusions of the authorized spiritual texts, which give comprehensive and profound information about Krishna. They don't listen to all that. They want to approach the Supreme Absolute through speculation, using their puny, tiny brains. Doing that, as far as you can get, is conceptualizing that there's an all-pervading spiritual energy. You can get that far through speculation. An intelligent person, materially speaking, can speculate his or her way to understanding there's a spirit soul and that there's some all-pervading spiritual energy. But you cannot speculate your way beyond that. Either to understand Paramatma, the super soul in everyone's heart, or to speak of understanding Bhagavan, Krishna, the possessor of all opulence, and what to speak of understanding Krishna as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. We're in the dark without revelation. Just like we're in the dark until the sun rises. You can speculate all you want to try to force the sun to rise. It's not going to happen until, so to speak, the sun rises of its own accord. So Shukadeva Goswami, in this verse, is pointing out different visions of Krishna. He's seeing Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He's seeing Krishna sporting with his cowherd friends. Krishna's doing everything we would love to do, unlimitedly, without the slightest defect, problem, or fault. He's playing with his cowherd boyfriends in the forest. And it's not a material forest. Krishna has various forests to select for his pastimes. In one forest there's one season, in another forest there's another season, another forest, yet another season, and there's one forest that has all the seasons together. Try to imitate that. Everything in the forest is flowing towards Krishna. The Jamuna River tries to flow towards Krishna's feet. The grass leans towards Krishna's feet. The trees bow their leaves down, aiming at Krishna. The breezes blow simply for Krishna's pleasure. There's the sun and the moon, but they don't indicate the passing of time. They are just props in Krishna's pastimes, indicating it's time for this now, it's time for that now. It's time for this kind of pastime, it's time for that kind of Leela. But there's no passage of time because no one has a material body. Krishna has no material body and his associates have no material bodies. Because we can't do this, out of envy we say it's myth. Who could ever conceive of something like that? Yet, someone with some kind of devotional assets, no matter how slight, some kind of contact with a devotee, some little service done, they have an inside track, so to speak, in immediately appreciating Krishna. I remember first reading Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I had done service by purchasing the books. So when I began to read about Krishna's pastimes, I immediately said to myself, through years of intense academic study, I know the scope and strength of the human intellect. What I'm reading about Krishna's pastimes, no human being could make up. What to speak of reading Prabhupada's philosophical presentations of Krishna's pastimes. In the Krishna book, the pastimes, the leelas, are embedded in tattva, scientific understanding. Srila Prabhupada would not simply present leela. He would always couch the leela in tattva. Therefore, anyone can read the Krishna book and understand what is the Supreme. Who can, with their tiny human brain, manufacture such inconceivable enjoyment in so many different types of flavors? 5 primary flavors of relationships with Krishna, 7 secondary flavors, and then the mixtures of the 2. How Krishna enjoys in Vrindavan with all different types of devotees. Knowledge of the Supreme Enjoyer, the Supreme Beloved, and the Supreme Lover. That's the most advanced knowledge in existence. So what do you expect of people today? As we pointed out the other day, at best, they conceive that there's some kind of supreme controller. At best, they consider there's some kind of all-pervading spiritual energy. But those considerations will never allow them to understand what is Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulence. Never allow them to understand Krishna's Rasaraj, the master of all loving exchanges. To understand that, you have to hear. You cannot climb up to that understanding, just like you can't force the sun to rise at night. There's knowledge of Krishna. You're saying, where does it come from? It comes from Krishna himself. Who is better at explaining Krishna than Krishna himself? Krishna speaks knowledge of himself in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam. The most authorized devotees explain about Krishna, just like Shukadeva Goswami is explaining now. What is so difficult about that? If you want to go to some foreign country for an overseas experience, you hear from others, this is what it's like to go backpacking in France. This is what it's like to go to the beaches in Thailand. First of all, you hear from your friends. Then you go online and do internet research. In the past, 15 years ago, all the young people would buy these Lonely Planet guidebooks. Now, everything is online. So you get information from authorities. Where's the best backpacker place? What's the best use of time when we go to these places? Should we go here? Should we go there? If we go to New Zealand, how much time should we spend on the North Island? How much time should we spend on the South Island? And the travelers, they're always asking each other for tips. Oh, you just came from the South Island? What did you do there? What do you think is the best place? We're dependent on authority. When people are having difficulty in any aspect of material life, of course, they're always having difficulty, but when they recognize they're having difficulty, they turn to some authority. Oh, my relationship is falling apart. It's considered quite square to go to a marriage counselor, so what do? They go to the bookstore, get an ebook, How to Have a Better Relationship. Let's hear from the authorities. At every step, we're dependent on authority. Why is it that when it comes to spiritual life, we just do our own thing? And that's spiritual. The clarity for understanding the spiritual world is bestowed upon you as a result of your devotional service. Because love of Krishna is not something foreign to you. Lord Chaitanya explains this. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhu Kapunor Shravanade Shatachita. Korayedor. Pure love of Krishna is eternally established in the heart. And it's revived by the authorized process of hearing and chanting about Krishna. So it's already there. It's already the real you. It's nothing foreign that's added. It is something that's revived in you by the influence of Krishna's spiritual potencies. So bhakti, devotional service, puts you in a position of being a favorable receiver for Krishna's spiritual energies. Krishna's internal potency, his spiritual energy, has divisions in terms of function and effect. The Samvit potency bestows upon the devotee knowledge of Krishna. The Hadini potency bestows the pleasure of loving Krishna. So it's all about contact with the right energies. Material life means contact with the wrong energies, and therefore you hallucinate. I see possibilities for happiness. I see possibilities for enjoyment. It's not so bad. Others are having a tough time, but I'll be all right. Just give me a few years where there's no disturbance. That's considered a successful life. I had a few years where there are no disturbances, you know. How are we to understand Krishna? By the process Krishna gives himself. How strong we are to understand Krishna, that's up to the individual. If you want to be in the sunshine, so to speak, you make every effort to be in the sun. If you don't, you stay in the shade, you don't even go outside. You keep yourself covered up from head to toe and wear sunglasses. But if you want to be in the sun, you make some arrangement how to be exposed to the sun. You can try artificial ways to be exposed to the sun. These tanning salons. Now they're considered a danger. People were so eager to have a suntan, they would try to get artificial sun. Artificial methods won't work in understanding Krishna. Bhakti yoga means the natural lifestyle and technique for exposing yourself to Krishna. But how strong is our desire? Our desire is actually weak due to sinful activity. Due to contact with the illusory energy, we become weak and feeble in our spiritual endeavor. I don't know, I'm not sure. Maybe. Meanwhile, the material energy is demanding conviction, demanding faith, demanding interaction. But, we've been doing that for so long. Everyone else is doing it, so I guess it's all right. The demands of the material energy are accepted as routine and part of life. Krishna's demands, oh my God. It's too much. It's too clear. So many persons have told me that, this bhakti knowledge is too clear. In other words, there's the assumption that comfortable spiritual knowledge, genuine spiritual knowledge is foggy. Bhagavatam gives all the answers. Can that really be the pinnacle of spiritual knowledge? Does the spirit soul really want answers? Shouldn't there be always just questions? Yes, as you know, I wrote in the preface to Perfect Escape, at the time, one popular New Age writer wrote, "The soul does not want answers, the soul wants perpetual questions." And people read that, oh, very deep, let me buy the book. We had to deal with all those kind of conceptions back in the 90s when New Age was raging in New Zealand. It hit like a forest fire, burned down all the forests, and then it went. Everyone realized, since the goal of New Age notions are, the end result is simply to have sense gratification, why not just have the sense gratification without the New Age notions? But for a while, it was very interesting. Spirituality involves not answers, but perpetual questions. And what's the other one? How do you know what a genuine spiritual path is? The one with the least rules and regulations. Rules and regulations simply burden you. But without rules and regulations, you naturally float upwards to the spiritual platform. That was a best-selling book. The rules and regulations press down on you, burden you. But a genuine spiritual path is free of such fetters, and therefore you can just spontaneously rise up. You know the story, maybe some of you haven't heard. Such a best-selling New Age author in the 90s. And so many persons were in awe of him. But one New Zealand young lady had her Shraddha, her faith, totally shattered. She was in Hawaii at a pub, and there she saw her hero, the expounder of so many best-selling texts, New Age so-called spirituality. And he was getting drunk and with his friends, and he was just roaring out with laughter. I'm making millions of dollars writing such junk. And people are buying it. The girl was just shattered. She took all that he was writing seriously. And then to see him just roaring as a drunk. They're fools and they're buying what I'm saying. It's just junk. This is what we would consider so seriously. Okay, you would say, well, you didn't buy his books. You wouldn't buy such books. But the folk notions percolate everywhere. So therefore, in the back of the mind, there's this thought. Tom is just too explicit. It's too clear. It's too definitive. Is that really mystical when everything is spelled out? Shouldn't mystical just mean that everything is undefined and vague? And in other words, you have room to maneuver for your own sense gratification? Yeah, that's mystical. Isn't the prime spiritual experience the coming together of two embodied mysteries? Oh, yes. How divine. So you don't buy those books, I know. They're not so popular anymore. But the folk notions, the assumptions from those books, they're everywhere. So yes, New Age is dead, but its notions are alive everywhere. Follow your bliss. Do what you feel. Be happy in your own way. Find your truth. Yeah, we appreciate that you're attached to Krishna. That's your truth. We're looking for our own truth. That's the folk notion, that there's a different truth for each person. You've got to find it. You can't take another's truth this festival, we have been celebrating the comprehensiveness and definitiveness of the science of Krishna. You're feeling it with your senses. You're feeling with your tongue, your eyes, your ears. All aspects of you feel saturated. One of our up-and-coming practitioners was telling me that a few days ago. I just feel totally saturated. Yes, that's the whole point. Bhakti is sensory, but it's not for your material senses. And that's the problem. And yes, sometimes the material senses jump you and kick you. When are you going to pay attention to us? Don't cut us loose so quickly. We've been with you in various types of bodies for so long, giving you the same chewing the chewed flavors, but that's all right. Don't separate from us. We'll give you some relief. Isn't some relief worth something? So in this way, the material mind and senses kick back at you. Don't push us aside. We're your friends. We're not the best of friends, but we give you something. Isn't something better than nothing? And how long do you think you can really go on being a goody-goody in Krishna consciousness? Really? You know where you're really at and what you've done. So the illusory energy knocks on your door. Isn't this what you want to do again? We choose our saturation. Let us not be disconsolate and intimidated that we have a choice. Shesharu spent so much care to explain to us about choice. Don't be afraid to develop your choice muscles. There are situations you encounter in your spiritual development in bhakti that make you stronger if you approach those situations, if you handle them in an authorized, genuine way. That's why a devotee relishes whatever comes his or her way as a chance how to increase the dependency on Krishna, as a chance to choose Krishna. In this way, you can see your whole life as a progressive development. Of choosing Krishna, developing your choice muscles. A situation that seems intimidating allows you to accumulate spiritual strength by your choosing Krishna in the face of such intimidation, in the face of such apparent problems. Queen Kunti is the master of that. Even in the face of the greatest calamities, what would she say? Let them come, calamities, let them come. You should think, what kind of woman is this? Let calamities come. Because when the calamities come, we think of Krishna, and Krishna is there more than ever before. So we don't call the calamities disasters. We call them a welcome opportunity because they bring us Krishna. That kind of consciousness can seem far beyond us. So we don't mean to scare anyone by saying it. Our younger practitioners, oh my God, this is what it's all about. Let the calamities come again and again. I want bliss, I want relief. That's all right. But appreciate Queen Kunti Devi's statement in this way. She's real female power. Her statement means bhakti love is so intense you don't care about external circumstances. And even in an external circumstance that seems to be disastrous, if it increases your bhakti, it's not a disaster at all. So she's teaching you how intense love of Krishna is. This is the pinnacle of the yoga system. She's the real Samadarshi, seeing everything equal in terms of how external events bring the presence of Krishna. Not, well, that was a bad event, that was a good event, that was a calamity, that was a prosperous situation. No. She's equal, seeing equally in that if Krishna is more present in this situation, then regardless of the external wrappings of happiness and distress, calamity or prosperity, I see those situations as beneficial. I welcome them. Let them happen again. This is why Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that a true enlightened person sees sameness, whether looking at some gold or looking at some pebbles or rocks. He or she sees them as Krishna's energy, all meant to be engaged in Krishna's service. For Krishna's service, pebbles and rocks have use. Just like on the roads here, there are pebbles and rocks on them. Gold has a use. In that way, there's equal vision. The equalizer is Krishna's pleasure. The more we engage in Krishna's service, the more we develop an affinity for understanding Krishna's activities. And Krishna wants you to understand his activities. He's inviting you, come join this. He's not displaying his pastimes and then saying, tough luck, don't you wish you could be part of this? He's displaying his pastimes, inviting you, return to this. Shukadeva Goswami is describing a scene from Krishna's pastimes. Krishna playing with his cowherd boys in the forest. The cowherd boys are so attached to Krishna and pure love that while they're in the forest and Krishna's in front, if Krishna passes behind a tree and for a split second the view of Krishna is blocked from the cowherd boys, then they're drowning in an ocean of separation. What kind of love like that have you seen in this world? The beloved walks behind a tree. You're drowning in separation just for that moment. How long does it take to walk behind a tree and come out the other side? This is how intense the love of the cowherd boys is. When Krishna would step behind a tree as he walked along, they were plunged in separation. And they would always run through the forest making games. Who can touch Krishna first? This is why Shukadeva Goswami is commenting. What kind of fortune do these boys have? How many volumes of pious activities have they accumulated to be playing now with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Sakya Rasa, in the loving relationship of friendship? Why does he say pious activities? Maybe some of you have wondered. Good karma, punya, pious activities doesn't get you to the spiritual world. Good karma, punya, pious activities, they just bind you in a pleasant way. They make you a first-class prisoner of the material world rather than third class. Still, you're in prison. The example I give. the prison system in South Africa during the apartheid days. According to your perceived ethnicity, you would get certain rights and privileges in the prison. Certain kinds of food would be allotted to you. Certain kinds of dress would be allotted to you. Whether you got a pair of socks or not. Whether you got this in your food or that in your food. Depending on what they had designations. Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D. All based on your, whatever they thought your body was. European body, okay, Class A. Mixed, Class B. Indian, Class C. African, Class D. So they had it all just, yeah. So during the apartheid struggle, the young revolutionary leaders, African leaders who were imprisoned for stirring things up, they were very feisty and uncooperative with the prison officials. So they got the worst treatment. But then Nelson Mandela, he was older than them. They kind of made fun of him. He's an old fogey. He's not radical enough. He's not aggressive enough. But he won them over. He told them, look guys, you're probably gonna be here a long time. So the best thing would be to be tactful and kind of seem to cooperate so that your conditions in the prison will be better. So they finally accepted. You might know what he's talking about. We could be here for a long time. And they were. But while they were apparently cooperating, they always had contacts with the revolutionary movements on the outside. So they never accepted that our role is just to be in prison, even though they were there for 25 years. They never accepted this is where we should be. We'll make the best use of our time and our stay here, but it's not where we belong. And meanwhile, they're always in connection with their comrades on the outside. Even from within the prison, they were planning out the government when they would take over, within the prison. So I use that example to show how devotees operate within the material world. We don't run out into the cold, for example, saying, we're not the body. It's true, we're not the body, but you have to take care of the body while you have it. You'll have it, hopefully, for some decades. A devotee lives expertly in the material world, meaning you don't allow it to entangle you with complexity. A devotee is not stubborn and hard-headed. This is what should be done. I can't hear from anyone else. This is what should be done. This hard-headedness and stubbornness is a symptom of Kali Yuga. Hard-headed people learn the hard way. A devotee's being expert means he or she knows how to navigate the river. It's like in New Zealand for the young adventure tourists coming. They really like white river water rafting. These rushing rivers. You get in one of those rafts, rubber rafts, and they give you paddles and you're wearing a wetsuit. And it's supposed to be a thrill. You go down the river. material existence is like a rushing river. And you need a white river water rafting guide. A few years ago, some tourists, one or two, drowned while white river water rafting. And immediately, the inquiry, who were the guides? Turned out it wasn't the guide's fault. People just didn't listen. As you go down the rushing river, for those who don't know, it's called White River because the foam on top of the waves, because the river is moving so fast. Well, that is the stream of the illusory energy. It's moving so fast. How do we navigate it? How do we travel on it in a safe way? The ability to listen is so important. Expertly cross over. And always remember, what is your goal? Just like the prisoners during the apartheid days in South Africa, the revolutionary leaders, they always knew their goal. We're going to get out one day. We're making plans. People glorify, for example, these revolutionary leaders who spent like 27 years in jail and then came out for liberation. If we say to you, spend 25 years trying to hear the Hare Krishna mantra, spend 25 years in jail to foment political revolution. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, freedom, you gotta be free, you know, free the people. See how jaded we are? How much of a nonsense we are? If we hear the story, for example, the CEO of Virgin Australia Airlines. He came to Australia, an immigrant family, and he started working for Qantas in the mail room. Just sorting mail in the mail room. And then gradually, of course propelled by his karma, but looking at things externally, gradually by acquiring skills and knowing the right persons, he moved all the way up to the second most powerful position in Qantas. And then he was bypassed for the number one post, the CEO. His working partner got that post. So he was angry. So he left and started his own airline. Made it a serious competitor with Qantas. So now he's glorified. You're in your 60s, you've achieved the pinnacle. You made it all the way from the bottom, working, an immigrant working in the mailroom, menial task, went all the way to the top. People glorify that. What tenacity, what determination. But when we hear, dedicate your whole life to devotional service, gradually you'll become purified. Too long time. What has produced this bias, this prejudice in us? It's contact with the illusory energy has made us weak. Because the illusory energy seems to offer immediate, tangible benefits, stuff you can get your hands on. Whereas what Krishna offers, except for prasad, that seems so far away, right? So you're predisposed towards Maya, and that predisposition is the unfortunate benediction of Maya. We have this crazy notion that the illusory energy delivers the goods. Maybe damaged, but the goods are delivered. Krishna, well, yeah, but isn't Krishna for the Paramahansas? When are we ever going to be free from the illusory energy? We need some payoffs right now, yeah. We need something in the hand right now. do we get this predisposition from? It is conditioning. So what's wrong with a lifetime spent to overcome this conditioning? And while we're overcoming the conditioning, positively, we are increasing our attraction for Krishna. Shukadeva Swami is helping us. He's telling us what's going on in Krishna's pastimes. He's appreciating. Look at these cowherd boys. This is not material. Krishna is not an ordinary person, although those in Maya think he's an ordinary person. He's saying, this is not even what the Gyanis think, that Krishna is some kind of embodiment of the impersonal Brahman. As Krishna himself explains in Bhagavad Gita. Unintelligent persons think that first he was impersonal, as impersonal Brahman, and then he became personal. Unintelligent persons who don't know him, they think that. So Shukadeva Goswami comments on that. Those engaged in the self-realization of appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, they tick that off. But also, we talked about those who are under the clutches of Maya, thinking Krishna an ordinary person, and tick that off. But also those engaged in bhakti who accept Krishna as master, the supreme controller. They also can't understand how Krishna could be playing with his cowherd boyfriends the way he does in the farce. What Krishna is doing in his pastimes in Vrindavan is beyond the reach of the impersonalists, and it's also beyond the reach of those attached to Krishna in awe and reverence. Oh, the supreme controller, the supreme Bhagavan, the Lord. They can't understand Krishna's pastimes, his spontaneous pastimes of love in Vrindavan. Krishna doesn't want to be worshipped simply. He wants to play with you. He's the supreme fun maker. He makes fun for the cowherd boys. He makes fun for the cowherd girls. He makes fun for his parents. He puts Mother Yashoda in complete anxiety, but it's pure blissful anxiety. What is that? Pure blissful anxiety. Just like you see the mothers here running after their little toddlers. All day long they're running after their little toddlers. Oh, where's my child? Run this way. Oh, where's my child? Run that way. Scoop the child up here. Scoop the child up from there. The non-stop engagement. Sometimes the mothers, they get in anxiety, not getting any sleep, all day, running here, running there after the child. Particularly the contemporary young ladies, because they didn't have parents who selflessly sacrificed for them. It's hard for them to sometimes to be selflessly committed to a child. What about me? I'm just tired of this. At first there's the bliss of childbirth, your own production. Who does the baby look like? Which parent? And of course the hormones are helping out. Material nature is helping, flooding your brain with neurochemicals that make you feel at peace. So you quickly forget the pains of childbirth. The neurochemicals are flooding. So many ladies told me, right after childbirth, I asked, how are you doing? Oh, I'm in paradise. Because this is nature's way. The neurochemicals are designed to flow right after childbirth so that you forget all about the agony and you just feel so peaceful and content. And then while nursing the child, also, the dopamine in the brain is flowing. How much of our daily material life is influenced by neurochemicals? Scientists can tell you that. They can't tell you what is life and where does life come from, but they can tell you that in terms of your material body and mind, so much influence there is coming from neurochemicals. But what happens when the neurochemicals wear off? Whether in so-called love affairs, which can be more addictive than cocaine because in the so-called falling in love, the dopamine neurochemicals flowing, and that is more addictive than cocaine. Therefore, some people are addicted to just falling in and out of relationships. As soon as the dopamine wears off, that's the end of the relationship. Similarly, after childbirth, the euphoria wears off. So much so that some ladies go into depression because the chemicals aren't there anymore. So the anxiety is there. What is the child doing? When will I get some sleep? When will I have my own life again? Mother Yashoda is also in anxiety. What is Krishna doing now? Where is he crawling now? There's so many dangers in Vrindavan. He's crawling on the ground. There are tools, agricultural implements left on the ground. There are animals that could endanger him. And to add to all that, what does Krishna do? He breaks into others' houses and steals milk products. He's in anxiety. But it's Satchidananda anxiety. The anxiety is the peak of spiritual nectar. How can one understand this with material consciousness? When Krishna leaves his dearmost devotees, the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, they're devastated beyond what we could imagine. We don't know what heartbreak is. You get a glimpse of what a heartbreak at its most sublime level. You get a hint of what that is by seeing Krishna's pastimes of leaving Vrindavan. Then we start to understand what is real love. So Krishna is doing all this to show you this is the love supreme. This is what you should be focused on. So yes, execute your material duties very expertly. Expertly navigate the material world so you maintain your spiritual life and increase it. While at the same time you know there is real existence awaiting you. So it's not like the devotees, the bhakti yogis are just pie in the sky. They can't function in the material world and their eyes are always on the spiritual world. They can't handle the material world. No, devotees are expert. They know how to do the rafting on the White River. Just like, for example, the political prisoners during the apartheid days. They learned to cooperate, deal with the prison guards to get better benefits. But at the same time, they're always making plans. When we get out, this is what's going to be going on. So you'll say, but they didn't get out for decades. But now everyone glorifies such liberation struggles. Never mind, you spent 25 years in jail. Now you are free. Free from what? To do what? If for such tinsel people can be so dedicated, why not for Krishna? Oh, but that's different, you see. Political freedom is tangible, but Krishna's nice, you know. I've heard some people say, yeah, you know, Krishna's cool, but So Shukadeva Goswami is relaying these pastimes to you so that once again, just like the rivers flow to the ocean, your attraction will flow to Krishna. Your attraction actually it's always flowing to Krishna, but it's indirect, and that's why there's trouble. The attraction is flowing towards Krishna's illusory energy. Krishna wants it direct. You won't be satisfied unless it's direct. So Shukadeva Goswami is pointing out, who can understand this? These cowherd boys must have accumulated heaps of pious activities. Of course, you can't, as we said earlier, approach Krishna through good karma. So why does Shukadeva Goswami say that? Because in a civilized society, punya, good karma, is like the predominant currency. That's how you measure things. Just like, at least up until now in the world today. The US dollar is still the primary currency in which everything else is measured. So people want to know, what's the US dollar? What's the value of our currency to the US dollar? It's like now in New Zealand. New Zealand dollar is down compared to US dollar. So, the US dollar is the standard. Whereas in a civilized society, it's not paper currency or electronic money that's the standard. The standard is pious activities. So when Shukadeva Goswami says, how many volumes of pious activities, he's speaking in a way using the currency, the predominant currency of the time. In other words, what did they do to be able to enjoy with Krishna this way? So what did they do? How many pious activities? It's a way of expressing, wow. In a civilized way, in a way that's understandable in a civilized society in which material people are dedicated to good karma. They want to enjoy in the next life. So they're concerned about their future elevation. Not, next life, who knows, who cares? Get it while you can right now. Actually, when Shukadeva Goswami, the Acharyas point out, when he says, how many volumes of pious activities, he's not referring to good karma. He's referring to acts that directly please Krishna. How many activities did these boys do to please Krishna that now they can sport with him in this way? Just like when Krishna and the cowherd boys were in the forest, all of a sudden the cowherd boys wanted to have some fun. But they always wanted to have fun. Why all of a sudden? Well, they wanted to have fun in yet another variegated way. They're always having fun. So suddenly they wanted to enjoy with Krishna in another way. So they announced, calling out to both Krishna and Balaram, Rama Rama Mahabaho. Oh, mighty arm Ram, you're always giving pleasure to Krishna. Krishna Dushta Nibarhana. Oh, Krishna, destroyer of all troublesome elements. Troublesome person. We've got a problem. We're hungry. Mighty arm Ram, surely you can deal with our hunger. And Krishna, the destroyer of all troublesome situations and persons, certainly you can solve our hunger problem. Our hunger is troubling us. What are we going to do, Krishna? You can do it, Krishna. You can solve it. We're hungry. So you might say, wait a minute, what kind of pure devotional service is this? They're approaching Krishna for their own benefit. They're worried about themselves. No. When they say they're hungry, first of all, they're concerned. Krishna should eat. So in order to get Krishna to eat, we'll say we're hungry. Because we're cowherd boys. Krishna and us, we're all in it together, you know? We're all equal. Krishna, we're hungry. That means you'll eat. You're one of us. You're one of the boys. You're hungry, we're hungry. We're hungry, you're hungry. Yeah, it's all equal. So it was not impure devotional service. They're simply thinking of Krishna. Krishna should eat, and also Krishna should enjoy in this way. We'll assist, we'll inspire this pastime. So what to do? The cowherd boys are hungry. They approach Krishna. Respectfully, they first called out Ram. Rama Rama Mahabahu. They addressed Balaram because they knew Krishna likes the etiquette of having his elder brother addressed first. But their main attraction is for Krishna. So, Krishna devised a solution. I'll tell you, here's what's going on. This is what we'll do. Just like little boys, you know, they plan out their playing, they plan out schemes. Yes, any of you do that when you were little boys? With the neighborhood boys, you'd scheme pleasure activities. So, this is what Krishna and the cowherd boys are doing. So Krishna told them, nearby are some brahmanas doing a yajna, a Vedic sacrifice. There'll be food there. Why are they doing this Vedic sacrifice? Because they want elevation to the heavenly planets. You go there and you ask for food. But better first mention Balaram's name, because Balaram's a Kshatriya birth. Everyone knows that. And I'm just a Vaishya, a farmer, cowherd boy. But Balaram, even though he's herding cows now with me, everyone knows he's from Kshatriya, Vedic martial administrative class. He's from that kind of stock, which is considered higher materially. In other words, this is where these brahmanas are at. They really take this external stuff very seriously. So Krishna told the cowherd boys that make use of their material conceptions. So the cowherd boys approached the brahmanas, who were in the midst of a Vedic yajna for elevation to the heavenly planets, not for pleasing Krishna, but for their own better materialism, how to have a better life on the heavenly planets in the next birth. Karma, punya, pious activity. So how did the cowherd boys approach them? They respected the brahmanas. Sheshaprabhu was teaching about the different ways to show respect. All right, they're brahmanas, we respect them. The cowherd boys paid their full dandavats on the ground in front of the brahmanas, calling them earthly gods. Hey, Bhumi Deva, oh earthly gods. Not that they're saying there are many gods, but brahmanas are supposed to represent the absolute truth by teaching the absolute truth. So the cowherd boys are reminding them, you all have a responsibility to act according to the supreme absolute truth. So they presented the situation. Krishna and Balaram. They mentioned Balaram first. They'd like some food. Can you please give the food? The brahmanas didn't answer. They kind of flicked off the cowherd boys. Didn't even give them the benefit of a response. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no. There was some dialogue going on that we can't give you the food now. It's the crucial point of the yajna, the sacrifice. And the cowherd boys would respond, and we know something about yajnas, we're not dumb. We're Krishna's boys. We know everything. It's possible at a certain point of the yajna, you can give us the food. So there was some deliberation, some discussion. And then the cowherd boys, seeing that the brahmanas were really not going to say yes or no, they kind of started getting a bit sarcastic. Oh, Dharma Vittama, Oh, knowers of Dharma. Like, yeah, right. The boys, you know? Having a good time, you know? Oh, Dharma Victor Ma. Yeah. You're not giving food to Krishna and Balaram. You guys are out of it. You've insulted our gang leaders. Oh, and you're supposed to know what is Dharma? Ah, forget it. Brahmanas never answered. They didn't say, yes, we'll give. No, we won't give. And that made things even worse. You hate it when you ask someone for something, they don't even answer you. You're thinking, what's the person thinking? Are they able to give? Are they not able to give? Or what's going on? Just infuriates you. Yes, it can be very bewildering. Who's a master of that? Shastakrit's a master of that. You ask him something, and he wants to dodge it. He just kind of looks at you like a blank look. Did he demonstrate? He's famous for this. He won't say yes, he won't say no. He just leaves you to kind of wonder, well, what's he thinking? There's no telltale expression on his face. He just makes it completely blank. Yes, it can be very perplexing. And you even ask him, can you say something? I mean, what do you... And he'll just give the same look. It's like a mystic power, huh? Yogic city. So, this is what the yogic brahmanas, the priests, did to the cowherd boys. So they went back to Krishna to report. They were a bit disturbed. But what was Krishna's response? He laughed. Oh, these foolish brahmanas, absorbed in Vedic rituals for material benefit. Balaram, though, the acharyas say, Balaram was angry. They've insulted Krishna, they've insulted my brother. But Krishna laughed. And he told the cowherd boys, don't take it so seriously. That's the nature of begging. Krishna's giving Sankirtan instruction here. Sometimes your request is fulfilled, sometimes not. But don't lose enthusiasm. So then Krishna gave an alternative plan. Besides the brahmanas being nearby, doing the yajna, there's also the wives of the brahmanas. Now they are my devotees. They're always thinking of me. Go to them and ask for the food. You'll see a completely different response. But whatever you do, don't say that I'm hungry. It'll be too distressing for them. They love me so much. If they hear I'm hungry, it'll cause them pain. Just see how sensitive Krishna is. How consummate he is. With such consummate skill in relationships. This is the spiritual world. Sensitivities, varieties, diverse tastes. So Krishna cowherd boys, don't mention I'm hungry. Just say Krishna and Balaram are nearby. So that'll be enough. The acharyas say, though, that the cowherd boys wanted to question a bit about that. Okay, we just say you're nearby and we don't ask for food. If we don't ask for food, how do we get the food? So Krishna responded that the ladies will see that you're hungry, and then they'll, of course, realize that Balaram and I are hungry. So off the cowherd boys went. They approached the ladies who were seated peacefully discussing Krishna's pastimes. So the cowherd boys offered obeisances. Again, remember Shesha Prabhu's instruction on showing respect. These are the wives of brahmanas. These are one of the 7 types of mother. Wife of the spiritual master, wife of the brahmanas, cow. So they offered obeisances. And they began their presentation. Krishna and Balaram are nearby. Immediately all the ladies fainted. What kind of loving attraction is this? You've never experienced the material world. They immediately fainted. So then the cowherd boys had to resort. They got excited also. Wow, they love Krishna so much. We just said Krishna and Balaram are nearby. They fainted. We're going to have to say that Krishna is hungry to bring them out of trance. So then they added, not only are Krishna and Balaram nearby, but Krishna's hungry. So then the acharyas describe how the ladies fought to come out of their ecstatic trance. How can we be in an ecstatic trance when Krishna's hungry? I gotta revive my consciousness, I gotta get it together. They're fighting off the ecstasy of just hearing Krishna and Balaram nearby. We have to serve. Forget this bliss, forget this samadhi. Krishna's hungry. What kind of love is that? You've never seen. They don't want to enjoy the bliss of samadhi. They want to actively serve Krishna. When they heard Krishna and Balaram are hungry, they fought to come out of their trance. Immediately, they grabbed food and ran off to be with Krishna. Never mind what their husbands, their brothers, their fathers were thinking. Like rivers rushing to the ocean, they ran off. That description of like rivers rushing to the ocean is important because it's showing you they were not doing anything illicit. It is natural for the spirit soul to flow toward the Supreme Soul. They ran to find Krishna. And they saw Krishna walking on the bank of the Yamuna with his cowherd boyfriends. He had his left arm around the shoulder of a cowherd boy, and in his right hand he was twirling a lotus flower. Now what did that mean? Everything Krishna does is unlimitedly attractive and full of unlimited meaning. So just see Krishna. He has a flower garland of forest flowers going down to his ankles, peacock feather in his hair, face decorated with forest minerals. He had water lily flower, one behind each ear, curly hair over his cheeks. The supreme enjoyer, the supreme lover. There he was with the left arm around one cowherd boy, and in the right hand twirling a lotus flower. That twirling of the lotus flower in the right hand means, I've accepted your hearts of pure love. Your hearts are in my hand now. And it also means my own heart is turning upside down because of you. Such artistry. None of you men would ever be able to pull off such a thing. You could never think of doing such a thing. My heart is twirling and turning because of you. You couldn't pull it off. You never think to do it, nor could you pull it off. But what Krishna does is saturated with the topmost loving flavors. So Krishna officially welcomed the ladies. Thank you for coming. You've left everything just to come to me. But then he told them something surprising. Actually, Pure love of me is not attained by physical proximity. Go back home. Hear and chant about me. Worship me. At home. In that way, you'll attain me. Why did he tell them that? Naturally, they wanted to stay with Krishna. They had left everything. To break out of the constraints of a real Vedic society, for a young girl to race off, leaving husband, brother, father. It's hard for many of you to understand. In New Zealand, child can leave home and get social benefits at what age?
16.
Yeah, you're 16 years old, I think, 16 or 17. You go to the social benefit office and say, can't get along with my parents, or I want to live on my own. Okay, here's some money. So parents can't do the threat that my mother would say. You don't follow the house rules, go find your own house. There's no social benefit for money like that in the USA, so, oh, I think I'll behave, I think I'll stay at home. Right in New Zealand? Yeah. Go to the social benefit office. My parents, parents, it's all generally parents. My parents is a pain in the neck, you know. I want to set myself up on my own. Okay, here's your money. So it's no big deal to disregard your family, because the family is practically non-existent. If it exists, generally it's weak. But for these wives of the Brahmanas to leave home, Krishna appreciated. This is extraordinary. You made such a demonstration of pure love. Nevertheless, go back. Why did Krishna say that? First of all, these were wives of Brahmanas. They weren't cowherd girls. The cowherd girls were also married. But remember, everyone is Krishna's energy. The so-called marriages are just superficial, just to add excitement to Krishna's adventures. So Krishna was thinking, that's not good for society, for the function of society, that wives of Brahmanas associate with me. So better you go back. Can you quiet them down, please? Someone. Also, there's a deeper reason. At that moment, when the wives of the Brahmanas presented themselves to Krishna, Krishna's Aishvarya, his opulence potency, took over. And therefore Krishna started answering them as the Supreme Personality Godhead, Bhagavan, speaking very sternly, philosophically. Physical proximity is not the way to attain me. Go home, worship the deity, think of me, offer service to me. Began to speak very, as if he's dealing with devotees in awe and reverence. Why did he do that? Why did his Aishvarya, his opulence potency, interfere at that moment? Because of producing the best separation. Go home and you'll love me even more. Krishna always knows the best and wants the best. You want to love me? Do this and your love will increase even more. Go home. The wives of the Brahmanas were pleading with him. How can we go home? We've already given up everything for you. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva dharma prachaja, as we heard last night. Mamekam sharanam. Abandon all of what you think is duty and dharma and just do what I say. We've done that, and now you're telling us to go home. How can you say that just because we're the wives of Brahmanas, therefore we can't be with you? That's all external. We already threw away all that stuff. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here now with you. Then they made another proposal. Because the Acharya said, Krishna responded that even if I wanted to be with you, I have my cowherd girlfriends. That point didn't dissuade the wives of the Brahmanas. Yes, you have your cowherd girlfriends. Go on having your cowherd girlfriends. We'll just live in the forest. And we'll watch. Whenever some garlands of tulsi leaves fall from your feet while you're dealing with your girlfriends, we'll be so happy to scoop up those tulsi leaves and put them on our head. That's all we want. We don't even want to be your direct girlfriends. We can't go home. Let us just stay in the forest and benefit from whatever falls from your feet during your pastimes. What kind of love is this? Still, Krishna was insisting, go home. Not that Krishna's being cruel, but he wants to increase their love even more. The wives of the Brahmanas told Krishna, if we go home, we'll be rejects. We just busted all Vedic protocols and traditions. How can we go back now? Krishna told them, don't worry, I'll arrange that everything will be fine. Your husbands will accept you. The Acharyas point out that Krishna told them, your husbands like worshiping the demigods. I'll arrange that the demigods tell your husbands everything is cool. So they went home. One last question. How did they develop such love for Krishna? What happened was they heard about Krishna's glories from other ladies in Vrindavan. They didn't live in the same village as Krishna, but they heard through the ladies' grapevine. This is the perfection of the ladies' communication system. Have you seen Krishna's beauty? Have you ever seen such attractiveness, such sweetness? His body is sweet, his face is sweet, and sweetest of all is his smile. So they heard that, and they became purely attractive. They also heard about Krishna from the flower vendors and the betel nut sellers. So this information was coming. They don't need internet, you know? They don't need text messages. It was the Braj Mandala grapevine. Krishna, have you seen such beauty? So they fell in love with Krishna just by hearing. They might say, well, they hadn't seen him yet. How just by hearing? They fell into such pure love. But that is the potency of the hearing process. They perfectly fell in love with Krishna just by hearing about him. So always remember that point, please. So all this is going on just because the cowherd boys wanted to have some fun saying that they're hungry. All these things are going on. Rama Rama Mahabaho, Krishna Nivarhana. Save us from hunger, Krishna and Balaram. You can destroy all unpleasant, troublesome elements, so please destroy our hunger. I have time for just a couple of questions. So please make them very beneficial. Think about it, how the questions can benefit everyone here, including yourself. A hard choice. How do I choose? We can't gamble, so we can't have a lottery. I'll let Shesha choose the question. Who's going to ask the question? That way I won't get in trouble. Okay, Shesha chose Kadira. All right.
I was wondering, you were talking about the weakness that comes from contact with the material energy and our application to bhakti. So how do we get strength to overcome that position?
You get strength to overcome the duplicity of the material energy by associating with those who are strong. You become like whom you associate with. If you're fortunate to have a Krishna conscious husband, that's association. With other devotees you can associate. For strength, we're so grateful, for example, all the time Madhumati Devidasi is spending with the ladies, giving them from her strength accumulated over decades in devotional service. That's how you become strong. And of course, the daily spiritual practices must be there. Otherwise, the virus comes back. And as always, the more you give Krishna to others, the more you get Krishna. The more you care for devotees, the more Krishna cares for you. I'll pick the next one.
Hi, Krishna. You were mentioning, Gurudev, how in the 90s, New Age swept through New Zealand. And similarly, in the 60s, there was the Vietnam War and all the schism between generations. And that kind of predominated the consciousness of the people and had a certain impact on Krishna consciousness. What's the current thing that's sweeping through everything, and will that change possibly in the next 10 years if the environmental effects start to manifest more in mass migrations of people like already in Europe? And will that affect our approach to presenting Krishna consciousness, and should we do anything to prepare for such a change?
So you are saying that in the 90s in New Zealand, the New Age boom was there, and you were saying that in the 60s there was the generation gap. Never trust anyone over 30. So what is it now? Dullness. I don't know, I don't care. Dullness. Everyone is so entertained to the hilt that their brains are so distracted and dull. They can't focus. You've been handed the most distracting society ever. So you're asking, what about the future? Well, Srila Prabhupada's answer, not many are ready for amongst our devotees. He said the time will come when thousands of people will come to farm projects wanting engagement. Now, let me be specific here. There's a misunderstanding perhaps about what Prabhupada meant by farms. He meant like a place where there's deities, where there's devotees living in big numbers, a project, not just land and cows. Land and cows are the beginning. They are the basis. But just understand that farm project, that's what Prabhupada had in mind when he said in New Zealand, don't immediately build a temple in the city. Have a farm. He meant farm project like his places at New Mayapur in France, or like now New Brajadam in Hungary. Farm predominated by the deities. And everyone living on the farm sees themselves as servitors of the deities. The deities own the land, the deities own the land. And then, in relation to the deities, everyone has service. Brahmanas, administrators, agriculturalists, cow maintainers, and craftspersons, tradespersons. So that's what he meant. So that was what he was stressing. But in most Western countries of the world, as we point out so many times, no one wants to farm. They want IT. Certainly in India, IT. If you told your parents you're a farmer, what is this? We sent you to Australia to conquer the IT world, and now you're taking care of cows. You have disgraced the family. Your wife's father will have a heart attack. Why did I let my daughter marry him, a farmer? Right? So that is how Srila Prabhupada told us to prepare. At least we can talk about it and not avoid the subject matter. Admit that we have not fully succeeded. Keep the conversation going. So that was his solution. He saw things like walking through the city of Atlanta, looking at the skyline. He turned to devotees and said, one day this all won't be there. It sounds incredible. What do you mean one day it's not going to be there? And it's amazing how quickly we forget how many nuclear weapons exist in the world. They just stay in their silos or whatever. They never come out. It's just part of life, you know. In fact, we're so brainwashed by now, due to 70 years or more of living with nuclear weapons, we think they're actually keeping the peace. In New Zealand, they don't think that, but New Zealand doesn't allow the U.S. to park its nuclear fleet in the harbor. And so the U.S. government's always saying, oh, you Kiwis, what's going to happen when you're invaded? Who's going to protect you? When the invasion comes, then you'll call us. Then you'll call for the nuclear fleet. So we're so brainwashed, speaking in general, in terms of the world. It may not completely be so here. So brainwashed that we think the nuclear weapons have been keeping peace. If you don't have them, there won't be peace. This is what most people think. Therefore, as Srila Prabhupada points out in Bhagavad Gita, these weapons are not meant for peace. They're meant for destruction. They're not meant for prosperity. We have our nuclear weapons, therefore our prosperity is protected. And these nuclear weapons are not simply aimed at military establishments and industrial sites. They're aimed at civilians also. Even the USA, land of the free, home of the brave. The information's just come out that in the 1950s, their nuclear weapons were aimed at civilian sites in Russia and China. All that talk about being human and humane warfare and no. The quickest way to victory is to demoralize the citizens so that they revolt. Surrender, surrender, we can't take it anymore. They'll tell their leaders, just give up. That was the idea in Japan. There was a calculation. If we try to invade Japan, we could lose maybe 1 million or so soldiers. But if we drop the nuclear bombs, we freak out the population, they'll demand surrender. What can we do? Whose lives should be sacrificed? Our own soldiers or their people? Anyway, those people, they're the ones who cause so much havoc in the world with their crazy dictator. So, they made that decision. And that same mentality still exists, even amongst the democratic nations. They're leaders. The people may think one way, but the leaders, the military and business leaders, are thinking another way. The business leaders are thinking how to make money regardless of which way the nuclear missiles go. If you actually knew what a scam all this is, you'd never call it civilization. A true human being learns the bhakti science. That is not a fanatical statement. Hopefully after a week or more of hearing from Shesha Prabhu, hearing my attempt to educate, you'll understand the rarity of bhakti and how real human civilization begins and how it culminates in bhakti. Again, we want to thank you all for your association. So, our men's festival's beginning. Last night the ladies gave their permission for the men to get recharged and vitalized so they could be of better credit to human beings, to all living entities. And of course, again, we want to thank Shesha Prabhu for venturing down to this remote part of the world, way down under. And of course, we want to thank his other half, Madhumati Devamrita. I try to encourage such outstanding guests to come, so you just won't be stuck with me, you see.
Well, we want to thank you, Raj, for inviting us, and all the devotees. We greatly enjoyed our time in service with you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.